He won everything, and still, he looked tired, not physically, but something deeper, like a man trying to smile while carrying 20 years of doubt, pressure, and ghosts on his back. They called it the perfect ending, but for Lionel Messi, perfection has always been a prison, because when the whole world believes you're the closest thing to a football god, they stop seeing you as human. He was never built for the spotlight. No booming voice, no tattoos at first, no declarations of war. Just a quiet boy from Rosario who let his feet do the talking. But from the moment he broke through at Barcelona, they decided he had to be more than just great. He had to be perfect, flawless, unbreakable, beyond question. The better he got, the less he could afford to be anything less. A single bad match, a scandal, a missed penalty, a referendum on his legacy, a lost final, proof that maybe he was never meant to lead. Messi didn't chase this pedestal. It was built beneath him by strangers who needed a symbol more than they needed the man. And when you're seen as divine, you're not allowed to suffer. Not publicly, not emotionally, not like everyone else. He became the greatest player alive. And still, it never felt like enough. Because the world didn't just want goals. They wanted fire, fury, a leader they could project their pain onto. And Messi wasn't that. He was something else, a mirror. And mirrors don't talk back. He gave the world everything, and in return, it asked for more. Every Argentinian boy grows up in the shadow of a legend, but Lionel Messi grew up in the shadow of a god. Diego Maradona didn't just win the World Cup, he conquered it with madness, magic, and mayhem. He was beautiful chaos in human form, and when Messi became the next great hope, they didn't ask him to be brilliant. They asked him to be Maradona, without the drugs, without the demons, without the humanity. In Argentina, football isn't just sport, it's mythology. And in mythology, heroes have to bleed. Maradona bled publicly, scandals, exiles, tears on live TV. He gave the people his pain. Messi didn't. He stayed quiet, focused, private. So they filled in the blanks for him. They called him to European, to soft, to robotic. Not one of us. As if leaving Argentina at 13 to chase a dream was a betrayal. As if succeeding, cleanly, quietly, was somehow less authentic than burning out in flames. When he cried, they mocked him. When he retired, they doubted him. When he came back, they shrugged. Because in Argentina, greatness isn't enough. It has to hurt. It has to look like pain. It has to feel like Maradona. For 20 years, he's tried to be the best. But in his own country, that was never the question. The real question was, can he ever be one of them if he's not him? For a while, it looked like a fairy tale. Barcelona wasn't just a club. It was his kingdom. He was the boy prince who grew into a silent king, conquering the world with a left foot that spoke more clearly than any anthem ever could. But kingdoms don't stay golden forever. Behind the goals, behind the glory, the house was crumbling. Corruption at the top, betrayal behind closed doors. And the man who gave them everything was suddenly just another name on a balance sheet. He didn't want to leave, but he wasn't welcome to stay. Not when the club had mismanaged itself into ruin. Not when the politics of power mattered more than the pulse of the people. The greatest player in Barcelona history, and still, he walked out the back door like a stranger. For years, he carried them. Through silence, through scandal, through rot. He played through pain, through politics, through the crushing weight of a club that needed saving and expected him to do it alone. But Barcelona never truly belonged to Messi. It belonged to its mythology, to its brand, to its bottom line. And when the time came to choose, they chose the brand. You can give a place your life, but that doesn't mean it gives you a home. Fame doesn't look the way you think it does. It's not applause, or praise, or a million Instagram hearts. Sometimes it's silence. A hotel room that's too quiet. A birthday party without your kids. A stadium full of people, and not a single one who really knows you. Lionel Messi is the most famous athlete on earth, but he's also one of its most elusive. Not because he's mysterious, but because he never pretended to be anything more than a footballer. No wild declarations, no public feuds, no headlines screaming for attention. And in a sport addicted to chaos, that made him feel distant. He wasn't built for the theater. He wasn't a brand. He was a boy who loved the ball. But that kind of greatness, it's lonely, because the world doesn't cheer for restraint. It wants drama. It wants noise. It wants fire. And Messi's fire was internal. He won 7 Ballon d'Ors, scored over 800 goals, rewrote the sport's DNA. And yet, some still said he wasn't a leader, that he didn't feel like the greatest, because he didn't fit the mold, because he didn't play the part. They never saw the man, only the machine. But Lionel Messi never wanted to be more than human. The tragedy is, he was never allowed to be. It was the moment he wasn't supposed to need, but always secretly did. For 16 years, the World Cup was the asterisk, the missing chapter, the whisper at the end of every debate. Yeah, but Maradona won one. He came close, too many times, and each failure dug the wound deeper, not just for fans, but for him. Because when you give everything to a game, and it gives you nothing back, it breaks something. And by 2022, Messi was done chasing peace. Now he was chasing closure. For the first time in his career, he didn't just play with Argentina. He became Argentina. Messi stopped trying to be Maradona's successor and started becoming his own myth. This was it. The last stone. The final proof. The boy who was too European, too quiet, too cold, was now a god in his homeland. Finally, only peace never came. Not really. The debates didn't end. The pressure didn't vanish. The crown didn't get lighter. Because what no one tells you is, even if you win the war, you still carry the scars. He climbed the mountain. He planted the flag. He gave the world its ending. But when the noise died down, he was still just Lionel. Still that same quiet boy from Rosario, still wondering if now, finally, he could breathe. Fame doesn't look the way you think it does. It's not applause, or praise, or a million Instagram hearts. Sometimes, it's silence. A hotel room that's too quiet. A birthday party without your kids. A stadium full of people, and not a single one who really knows you. Lionel Messi is the most famous athlete on earth, but he's also one of its most elusive. Not because he's mysterious, but because he never pretended to be anything more than a footballer. No wild declarations, no public feuds, no headlines screaming for attention, and in a sport addicted to chaos. That made him feel distant. Cut to Ronaldo shouting after a goal, Ibrahimovic demanding the spotlight. Then Messi, quiet, humble, reserved, celebrating with teammates, never pointing to himself. Narrator VO. He wasn't built for the theater. He wasn't a brand. He was a boy who loved the ball. But that kind of greatness, it's lonely. Because the world doesn't cheer for restraint. It wants drama. It wants noise. It wants fire. And Messi's fire was internal. He won 7 Ballon d'Ors, scored over 800 goals, rewrote the sport's DNA. And yet, some still said he wasn't a leader, that he didn't feel like the greatest. Because he didn't fit the mold. Because he didn't play the part. They never saw the man, only the machine. But Lionel Messi never wanted to be more than human. The tragedy is, he was never allowed to be.